Today, we want to talk about virtual learning. As you know, most schools in the Tri-County are engaged in some type of online teaching and learning. Some of them are referred to as virtual schools, some are referred to as a hybrid, etc. But today I'm pleased to share this discussion with Ms. Stacy Bingley Williams, who is a certified administrator and who currently serves as an assistant administrator at an elementary school. Stacy has had experience at both the middle and elementary levels. And so, Ms. Bingley, as you know, with online learning comes lots of challenges. So from your perspective, how can parents assist students succeed during virtual online learning?
I really believe that parents should be very well aware of the platform that their students are using. If they're available to sit with them and watch the process of logging on and engaging with the teacher, so that if there are questions or there are hiccups with the internet issues or how to access the assignments, they'll be able to assist them from home. Sometimes it's challenging for a teacher when you have several students virtually that have questions about the logging on process and you're trying to assist one student. That leaves the other students having to wait. And there's no real answer to that issue at this point because everyone's issues may be different. So if parents are available, it would be very helpful to know the platform and know the process of engaging with the teacher virtually so that they can be of assistance to their students at home.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. You know, from the high school perspective from which I work, I would say the very same thing. We had a town hall prior to the opening of school to share with our parents the type of platform we were using, and we also share with them just the process for using it. So I totally agree that it's important for parents to be involved in that. What about online etiquette? I know from some of the experiences our teachers and students have had, there have been anything from Zoom bombs and people using profanity while on online instructional platforms. What are some ways to avoid that?
I think the first thing parents are responsible for doing is making sure that the students have a place at home that is conducive for learning. Mm-hmm. If it's the kitchen table, if it's a desk, if it's just wherever they can sit up and participate as if they are actually in the school building. I think one of the first issues for students is that if they're at home, they sometimes relax as if it is that leisure time. So because we're working in this manner, when kids are on their bed, naturally they start to lay down. If they are on the couch, same thing, they may tend to lay down. So we encourage students to find a chair and pull up to an area where they can sit up and work, because naturally when your body relaxes, the body feels like it's time to go to sleep. So the first etiquette thing is to understand that even though you're working virtually, you're still in school. And so logging in on time, a few minutes before, to make sure that there are no hiccups or restarts that need to take place with the computers, because they're computers and they sometimes don't work the way we want them to work. So and then if there are multiple persons in the home, making sure that the other persons in the home stay away from the camera area and understand that those are huge distractions to the students' learning. So you can set parameters about where the students work. I've had students to work in a bathroom area, on the counter, if that's the quietest place in the house. Kitchen tables are always great. And again, if they have the option of an actual student desk, that would be the most ideal way to ensure the students are up and ready for learning.
Absolutely. And I agree again on that, because we've even had situations where we had to say to students that they could not wear their pajamas whenever they're on camera. But parents do need to know that it's important for teachers to be able to see the students. So one of the things that often occurs is that students will choose not to be videoed, and so they won't show their pictures. And of course, that's understandable, and there are ways to get around that. We have encouraged teachers to use virtual backgrounds so that students can be on a level playing field, so to speak, and that they don't have to worry about whether their room is tidy or not. So those are other ways. Ms. Williams, I see that Ms. Lennon is going to join us, so I'm going to admit Ms. Lennon to our discussion.
Okay.
And as she joins us, we will have another perspective. And while she's joining us, I want you to think too about the fact that we have so many students on virtual platforms or online learning, engaged in online learning. Often they become fatigued or just burnt out from using cameras and computers and their iPads. What do you think are some practices that would help students to avoid becoming fatigued by online learning?
I advise teachers to give the students a break between classes. In that way, they can take care of their personal needs as well as just relax their eyes and their bodies for just a few minutes and then log back on. So we have built-in breaks in our schools so that both the teacher and the student can reset so that we're having a less likely chance of burnout. I particularly, have to wear the reading glasses sometimes because looking at a screen all day now versus just, part of the day, it does wear on you, your eyes, your body, sitting in one spot versus moving around more. So students at home, they don't get the PE experience the way they did before. They don't get to move around to the related arts classes or even just to switch classes because they're at home. So they are in one area. They may move around to eat or use the restroom, but we have built in just breaks and movement breaks as well. Some of them are found online and they're easy to do. And so students are encouraged to take those brain breaks so that they don't feel fatigued at the screen all day.
That is definitely an issue. At the high school level, we did something different just this past week in that we allowed our students to go outside to eat lunch, something that we haven't done in my almost 4 years at the high school where I work. And it made such a big difference. Even the teachers were excited that they were able to go out and get some fresh air. So I think any kind of diversion from watching a screen is helpful to our students. Ms. Lennon, we're so happy to have you join us.
Thank you.
We were talking about online learning with Ms. Williams, who is at the elementary level, and we know that you are a certified school counselor. So I know you get to see a lot of things. You get to talk to both students and the parents a great deal.
I do.
Do you have anything that you want to share about online learning that might be helpful to the parents that might view our segment today?
So specifically for middle schoolers, what we've been doing at Morningside is we call it brain break.
Okay.
And so there is a period set aside for students to actually use their cell phones or any technological device, as long as it's being used appropriately, they're communicating with whomever appropriately. They take that opportunity to have that brain break because it is important that students get these breaks because with technology and the pandemic going on and everything that is with us for how much ever more time, students, they're just overwhelmed with the in-person and online remote learners. It's just totally different for students. It's totally different for staff. It's overwhelming. And so we haven't used our outside area, but Morningside has a huge amount of land that sits behind the school. And we haven't been really using that just yet. But like I said, we've done what we set aside that time called brain break for students to have the opportunity to communicate maybe to their remote learner friends or to the outside world, outside of school.
Right. Okay. You mentioned something about parents and some people outside. And so really this is a collaborative effort. This is new for the students, the parents, teachers, administrators, counselors. You know, this is just a whole experience that none of us ever imagined. And so we're having to do a major paradigm shift in how we learn, how we teach. So we're growing together. And I think the one thing I've learned through this is to have a lot of patience.
Yes, and patience with everything and with everybody. I know that as a school counselor, I've come up against so much. Our parents are very overwhelmed. Our parents are not technologically savvy. So I spent the bulk of time since school has been open getting our parents acclimated to how you log on. Where do you go once you log on? What do you do? What is a chat room? How do you look at who's online? How do you keep your camera on? How do you turn on your mic? How do you mute yourself? And so that they can better help their students at home. So with my department, about the bulk of our time was just like our kids, you know, when we went out in March, the kids were given Chromebooks. So they were supposed to return the Chromebooks in August, only to reissue the Chromebooks to the students again in September to begin school. Well, back in August, when you gave the Chromebooks to the students, parents did not know what to do. So then that was a problem when you reissued the Chromebooks for this school year, and you spend the bulk of your time, you know, teaching parents and students together. And then you have grandparents that are being parents to students that you have to also teach. So when you look at getting them ready to use a Chromebook, using the Chromebook, giving them online rules or in-person rules for Chromebook usage and appropriate online etiquette, it is a lot.
You bring up a good issue, and it sounds like a way that we might be able to help, because there seems to be a need for parental training. And, you know, we have done a little bit of that at our school, in that, as I said before you joined us, is that we've had town halls for our parents and shared documents to help them with steps for how they need to access certain resources or how they can help their students. But ultimately, as I said, it's a big learning curve, and it's a joint effort. So as we kind of bring this whole thing together, if you were to summarize, and of course all of us are part of a church, are there ways that you see our churches as having a role in helping to make sure that online learning is successful for our kids? The biggest challenge for me, or my biggest concern, is that our students have lost instruction. They've lost some academic ground from March until the end of school, then the summer, and here we are again. I think most of us thought that we were going to come back, quote, normal, but we're still in the same predicament. And as you mentioned, everyone does not have a parent like us or a guardian that will make sure that they're seated at a table or in a space where they can have less distractions, etc. So as just a final summary or capsule of how we can help our students and our parents to ensure that our students have academic success, what would be the one thing that you would want to share? And I'll go to you. Are you ready to speak on that, Ms. Lemon? I know you came in late. You look like you want to say something. Do you want to go ahead, or you want me to go to Ms. Williams?
I'll go ahead. As far as the church is concerned, I believe that it is something that the church can do. I think that the kids need some type of check-in. I know that we're supposed to be practicing social distancing, but we've been out of church since March. And so I believe, and I hope to soon, even if there is some kind of way that they can meet at a parking lot, social distancing, I mean, maybe stay in our cars or whatever, and do something that kids like to do, because they need somewhere to vent, but vent appropriately, to reach out for help, because it's not always they want to come to the guidance office. It's not always that they want to share it with the assistant principal or the teacher or the principal or any kind of admin. They want to get back to normal, per se. So I think that the church can help. I mean, maybe we can have class leaders that can make phone calls. Those that work with youth in the church can do Zoom calls, and because they need an outlet.
Right.
And biblically, we can remind them of what Scripture says to help them to be successful.
Right.
I think that kids, they're sponges, so they want to know. You know, they want to learn, and they want to continue to be appropriate. But when we as adults think, you know, we've been away from the church, from the masses, because they do take church seriously. They do take Sunday school seriously. And so we've been gone since March. It's now September. So we don't want it to look like that part of their life has fallen apart. So we have to somehow come back together as we practice social distancing. So my suggestion would be a telephone check-in, a Zoom check-in, to have fun, to relax, to be able to complain, really, to say, you know, well, I don't like when blah, 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 and I don't like with that, and not say, oh, well, that's not appropriate for you to say, but give them an opportunity to vent, but vent appropriately.
Thank you. And I know Ms. Williams has a lot to say with that, because she's been really involved in Zoom opportunities for our kids through the church school.
Good.
So, Ms. Williams?
Yeah. So yes, I think as a church, I think the first thing is to know who are great resources for them. So some may know and some may not know that there are lots of us who are working in the educational system. And so even retired teachers can be a resource for them. So first, to know who is there, who can give them some sound advice, and even another parent might be able to share, you know, in that. And so when I think about how we can help, I think about the same things that Ms. Lennon talked about, virtual town hall meetings where they could talk. And then eventually we can move to something in person. Call it a party. You know, they want to party, and
yes,
they may be able to party. They do. And I think they would be and to celebrate their achievements. I think that the church is responsible for ensuring that they know that there's a connection between the school and the church. So when the church rewards them, not just once a year at the end, but throughout the year, and letting them know that my church is watching, my church is waiting to hear how well I'm doing. And even if it's just showing up in front of the screen every day, that is to be rewarded. And so when I think about it, even for my school, I said we must start rewarding the students. I don't know how we're going to get the rewards to these students, but I know for sure elementary students are so tangible. You have to put something in their hand or some type of reward. If it's a virtual drop off of a Chick-fil-A meal, they need to be rewarded because they need to be reassured that they're just not going through the motions, but this is still school and this really, really counts. So I think to reiterate that to them often and to assure them through rewards and incentives would be, a great way the church can get involved in the life of the school.
That's
So we
excellent.
basically have to take our PBIS and bring it to the church.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. And I was just going to say that we're doing something at my school for attendance because, and the kids don't even know it yet, but we are working on a project where if they show up, like you said, on the screen consistently, we're going to give them some kind of award. And we have a committee that's working towards that. And you ladies have really given us some great ideas because, as I said, we're all learning. This is a new paradigm for all of us, but
Yes.
we certainly don't want to lose any children. So we're going to work towards finding some ways to engage them. And if you have no other thoughts or ideas that you want to share, we're going to definitely activate your suggestions and find ways that we can continue to connect with our youth as well as our adults.